Chapter 4, Part 1, Trust. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Lao Tzu. Years later, two different masters would confirm what I couldn't see at the time. The arrest, which one master later said didn't even come from my vengeful ex girlfriend, but was actually a direct manifestation from the LCS itself, was the universe grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and yanking me off a path that was leading absolutely nowhere spiritually. I had apparently accomplished whatever I was supposed to accomplish over there. Was it the kid show that helped millions? Some interesting story to write in a book, unique enough to get me on famous spiritual podcasts to spread the word of my awakening? A humbling crash course in the polarities between poverty and fame? They didn't know for certain. They just knew it happened exactly as it was meant to, which is either the most comforting thing you've ever heard or complete nonsense, depending on how much pain you're in when someone tells you that, or even more so, where you are in your awakening process. In the no nonsense world of non dual spirituality, the backbone of this book and the only real path to freedom I found, as well as many other spiritual traditions, many incidences that have happened to us are far from accidental. Every so called quote unquote random event or person who triggers you is simply the universe's one mind moving pieces, often with precise intention. This isn't a feel good slogan, but a deep truth about reality itself, affirmed by great non dual teachers. At the same time, it's important to recognize that many events appear unpredictable or random from our limited human viewpoint. Some phenomena in physics and life manifest inherent uncertainty, challenging strict ideas of determinism. In this space between certainty and chance, we are invited to hold a greater awareness. Tolle frames this as the intelligence of the present moment. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness, he said. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you're having at the moment. After a profound awakening during his time with the Indian saint Neem Karoli Baba, Harvard psychologist turned spiritual teacher Ram Dass echoed this wisdom. Embrace each moment, even when its origins remain a mystery. Treat everyone you meet like God and drag, Ram Dass famously said. The only thing that counts is what you do with the moment you're given. Many Stoic philosophers also echoed this nuanced view. Marcus Aurelius, for example, counseled acceptance of events as necessary part of the universe's order. He said, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could be more aptly fit to your needs? This Stoic wisdom aligns closely with non-dual teachings on surrender and trust in the unfolding of life. According to Campbell, the LCS orchestrates all experiences to maximize the evolution of consciousness, which is its primary objective, through us humans, which he calls free will awareness units, or FWAUs. The LCS doesn't make mistakes, Campbell explains. What appears random or coincidental from the limited perspective of an FWAU is actually precise calibration designed to provide exactly the experiences needed for consciousness to evolve beyond fear and toward love. We will explore the meaning of life in the LCS's evolution later. And Campbell's scientific background brings unique credibility to ancient mystical insights. Every interaction, every challenge, every apparent quote unquote accident is the LCS providing the perfect curriculum for soul growth, he stated. You literally cannot be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You need to trust that. Easier said than done, right? Sure, it sounds nice when you're reading about trusting the universe with a latte in your hand, but when life is actually and actively pounding you, that intellectual knowledge feels like bringing a motivational poster to a gunfight. Understanding intellectually that everything happens for a reason differs vastly from knowing it experientially. It's the difference between knowing and knowing. And I mean knowing with a capital K. The latter, which has been called direct realization, only emerges as consciousness expands beyond identification with the separate self. The mind wants you to understand how everything fits together, but understanding follows awakening, not the other way around, DiLullo explains. First comes the recognition of what you truly are, then trust naturally develops because you see there was never anyone separate to begin with. Ultimately, the process of developing trust in the universe could be analyzed like this. 1. Initial resistance. Your ego throws a tantrum like a toddler who doesn't want to leave the playground. It desperately needs to figure everything out. because admitting you're not in control feels like death, which, spiritually speaking, it kind of is. 2, glimpses of synchronicity. You start noticing weird coincidences that make you go, what the hell? Just as you're about to lose hope, a song drops on the radio with the exact message you needed to hear. A stranger says a single word that flips your whole perspective, like the universe whispered a secret for you. You think of someone out of the blue, then moments later, their call lights up your phone. No coincidence, just the cosmos nudging. 3, consciousness shifts. Through meditation, spiritual transmission, or moments of sudden clarity, those flashes where you glimpse the universe's inner workings, the flow of life, or experience samadhi or unity consciousness, the quote unquote you running the show starts to question its own authority. You begin to see glimpses that you are not the author of your thoughts, or that we are all one. Over time, this ego self slowly dissolves, and life keeps flowing effortlessly, as if a vast, unseen intelligence is quietly steering the whole operation. 4, direct recognition. You realize that what you truly are was never separate from whatever intelligence is orchestrating this beautifully choreographed dance of the LCS. The same awareness looking through your eyes is the same awareness moving the planets and growing your fingernails. You are that. 5, natural trust. Trust develops naturally, not because you convince yourself to believe something, but because you recognize that the intelligence beating your heart and breathing your breath is the exact same intelligence running the entire universe. At that point, not trusting life becomes as ridiculous as your arm not trusting your body. But is consciousness expansion even required? In short, yes. The thinking mind can't manufacture trust because the thinking mind is the apparent separation from wholeness. As long as the consciousness remains identified with thoughts, emotions, and the body mind, there appears to be a quote unquote someone who needs to figure life out, control outcomes, and protect themselves from mistakes. Gangaji, a revered modern day awakened spiritual teacher, cuts right to the heart of this paradox when she said, the mind that wants to trust and the mind that fears trusting are the same mind. True trust is what remains when the mind is seen through completely. Lester Levinson understood this from direct experience. In the 1950s, this former millionaire businessman was told he had weeks to live, and in sheer terror of his inevitable annihilation, he had nowhere to go but inwards. He achieved full enlightenment, merging with the absolute, in just 3 months through systematically releasing all wants and desires and attachments. He would later go on to teach these release methods in what he called the Sedona method. When you let go of trying to control life, you discover that life was never out of control, he said. What you thought was chaos was actually perfect order, operating beyond the mind's comprehension. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. The ultimate paradox is that you cannot try to develop trust because the very effort assumes a separate self that trust actually transcends. Trust arises naturally when consciousness recognizes itself as the source and substance of all experience. Beloved contemporary Advaita teacher, Muji, perhaps said it best. You're looking for trust, but you are that in which all experiences are trusted to appear and disappear. You are the unchanging awareness in which the play of seeking and finding trust occurs. This is exactly why all authentic spiritual paths ultimately point beyond concepts, beliefs, and even trust itself toward the recognition of what you have always been, the very consciousness within which the entire dance of separation and unity appears. More on that later. But none of this was apparent to me at the time. How could I surrender to some divine intelligence when the same intelligence had apparently stood by while everything I believed in crumbled? The idea of letting go and trusting felt like spiritual bypassing hogwash when I was drowning in my own confusion and pain. The concept that this chaos might actually be perfect order operating beyond my comprehension, that sounded like something people say when they didn't want to face reality. I was still firmly identified with the story of being a separate someone who needed to control outcomes and protect myself from further disasters.